YouTube, man, what's good with y'all? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Hope y'all doing good, man. Before we get into today's video, I want to make a quick announcement that I just dropped my Make Believe collection kit on December 20th. It's the first kit that I dropped after a year and a half. Been teasing this kit for almost 6 months now, so it's out right now, man. First link down in the description down below. But in today's video, I'm going to cover drum patterns. And for the people who watch my videos, y'all know that I only have a handful of drum-related tutorials on my channel. So I figured before the new year starts, I just give y'all a fresh, updated tutorial. So today I'm going to go in-depth on drum patterns, drum bounces, anything that has to do with drums, from hi-hats to claps, open hats, snares, to the 808. So I'm not gonna get too in-depth into the sample making today. I got hundreds of tutorials covering that, so I'm only gonna be focusing on the drums and going over each individual sound and explaining my thought process behind laying down the patterns for each drum sound. So let's get right into it, man. Let's get it. Alright, man, got FL Studio pulled up, and as I mentioned in the intro, I'm not gonna get too in-depth into the sample making for today's tutorial, so I already got a pre-made sample pulled up, and the sample that I got in front of me is a sample out of my Make Believe collection, out of the sample library. The sample right here, the Losing Luck one. Give y'all a quick preview. That's what it sounds like. Very ethnic, dark vibe to it. That's what that sounds like. Let's keep things organized. I'm gonna get rid of the sample. I got the original FLP pulled up right here in stems, so I can see, and I also already pre-arranged it to make it easier, and I also labeled every part of the arrangement, so I can see it got an 8-bar intro right here, 16-bar hook after that, 16-bar verse, and an 8-bar bridge. And that's also a very important factor when it comes to the arrangement of your drum patterns, to know what sounds to use in a hook and a verse. So I'm gonna get into that as soon as we lay down the drum pattern, of course. So I'm gonna highlight all the sections where drums are in the arrangement, so that would be the hook and the verse. And the reason why I pre-arranged the sample before adding drums to it is because that really gives you a better understanding and idea of what the beat's gonna sound like, instead of having an 8-bar loop which sounds the exact same throughout the entire process of laying down the drum pattern. But if you pre-arrange the sample first like I just did, gives you a little bit more guidance throughout the arrangement, you feel me? So the drum pattern will kind of match the sample a little bit better, since it's a little bit diversity, you feel me? It's not like the same exact 8 bars over and over again. So I'm gonna highlight these 32 bars, the hook and the verse. So let's get started on the drum pattern. So let's open up the drum library for my Make Believe collection kit. These are the sounds that we're going to be using today. So 99% of the time when starting on a drum pattern, I always like to start out with a hi-hat and a snare, just to really lock in that tempo and set the bounce of the beat. So I'll make sure that the sample is playing, and I'm just go through the sounds to see which one matches the sample the best. Snappy hi-hat really match the vibe of the sample. That's why it's important to have the sample playing, like this last one right here. So let's track that into the channel rack. And before choosing the snare, let's fill each 2-step with the hi-hat. Let's manipulate the hi-hat sample a little bit right here. Cut a little bit off the start, so it's a little bit snappier. Mess around with the out knob, a little bit tighter. That sounds good, man. Sounds a whole lot better. Let's get into the snare. Once again, go over the samples. When I have the hidden snare, like this specific one right here, once again manipulate it so that it fits the sample just a little bit better. Like that. And for the main snare pattern, I always like to keep this as simple as possible, because I like to complement the main snare with a counter snare instead of just using one snare and going all over the place on the pattern. Started with the basic pattern, like I said. You can always make some small adjustments, but like I said, I don't want to do too much. For example, you feel me? You can also delay some snares, of course. It's all up to you. For example, the last snare. Build some tension, you feel me? But for today's beat, just keep it fairly simple. So at this point, most of the time, I like to add my open hats. I know a lot of people who start out beats with 808s, but in my opinion, I like to start out with a hi-hat and a snare. Open hats, like I said, and counter snares, just to really lock in those main elements of the drums, really set the tempo for the entire beat, and base my 808 off of that. So let's go into the open hats. Of course, you can use multiple, so I'm just browse through the open hat samples to see which match the samples vibe. First one sounds good. Drag it into the channel rack. use this one as well, sounds good. And this pearl one, I might not use all three, but let's see what turns out fire. I like to use this first open hat that I selected as some sort of accent. That makes sense. You feel me? Just a little subtle accent. That's all. And it's all about finding pockets in the sample where you can add your percussion elements, for example, the open hat. Let's find another pocket. You feel me? Or right here, end of the fourth bar. You feel me? Like, it's a lot of space in the sample right there, so a lot of room for percussion or open hats or whatever. After that, I'm gonna get started on the open hat pattern for this open hat right here. And I like how this open hat sample sounds, so I think I want this to be my main open hat for today's beat. And how I usually approach the main open hat pattern is just to really enhance the bounce as much as possible. You could place it on the first bar, but I usually like to delay it just a little bit to really build on that bounce, you feel me? You feel me? Sounds a whole lot better in my opinion. Let's find the pockets in the sample once again. Complements the first one as well. Right on the same position. Yeah, that's perfect. And when laying down drum patterns, of course you want to play around with the pitch as well. To make it sound better. I think it sounds good on the C right here. Let's actually add one more open hat at the end right here. At a lower velocity. Adds a little bit more bounce to it. So I think that's pretty much it for the open hats. Of course, you don't want to cover your entire drum pattern with just open hats. So I'm going to just get rid of that other open hat we selected at first. So we got 4 sounds so far. It sounded pretty good. I'm not going to get too in-depth into the hi-hat pattern just yet, since I want to add my 808 first and base the hi-hat rolls off of the 808 pattern. You really want to think of what's most important. So in my opinion, an 808 is more important than hi-hat rolls. So I'm going to add the 808 first and base the hi-hat rolls off of the 808 pattern, if that makes sense. But a little trick that I like to use when it comes to the sound selection of the 808s, I like to lay down my 808 pattern first and after that go through the 808s. So that's why I added a spins to my kit right here. Just get the spins very clean, very basic. Works every time. And I'm not going to focus on the sound selection too much. I'm going to just lay down the 808 pattern after that go through the 808 samples. So of course I got every single sample in my kit labeled with the key. So for this sample right here, that would be A sharp minor. But a trick to find the root notes of the sample that you're using is to pitch it up a few octaves. That sound good. If I pitch it up to B, that wouldn't sound good, you feel me? If I go down one, so you could just go, you hold shift, go into your arrow keys, you can pitch them down one note and just press space in between and find the root note. Feel me? That sounds a whole lot better. It's really a matter of practice, but you get the hang of it pretty easily. So A sharp it is. For the 808 pattern itself, I could really go for 100 different patterns and they will all sound good, but I'm gonna just base it off of the sample. That's how I like to add my samples or my 808 patterns. And an 808 is a bass, so you can also consider that an instrument, so that's why I like to match it with the sample, like I said. So I could just lay down the craziest pattern ever, but that wouldn't really make sense. You feel me? You feel me? Like, that would sound good, but it doesn't really match the vibe. So if we listen closer to the sample, it's a little gap right here. Right here. You feel me? Like, not too much going on, so I think I want to keep that fairly empty when it comes to the 808 pattern. You feel me? This little gap right here. Little gap right here builds a lot of tension. Sounds really good. And for 808 patterns, really less is more, man. If you listen to the most popular songs, 9 times out of 10, it's a fairly basic 808 pattern. You want to leave space for the artist too. You feel me? 2 great positions for the first bar would be right here for the second 808. Or right here. Sounds good as well. I think I'm gonna just leave it empty. Less is more, like I said. Satisfied with these 4 notes right here. But to make it stand out a little bit more, on the end of the 4th and the 8th bar, I usually add some sort of roll or some little adjustment to it that makes it sound a little bit more interesting than just sticking on the root note. So I think F would sound good right here. You feel me? Like, you can add accents in front of those notes. For example, this A sharp. Turn it down to velocity too. Really emphasizes that F right here. You can also add double notes, like to use those as well. Feel me? Let's take those out. I like that lower velocity note that we laid down before. Let's pitch that A sharp down. Doesn't really sound too good. It sounds a little bit muddy with the spins if we pitch this down. That's why I'm going to the 808 sound selection after. Double note maybe. So since we copied this over, we can make some adjustments on the second part just to keep it interesting. So we could decide to add another A sharp right here. Bring this to the front maybe. Now build some tension right here. Yeah, it's tough. Next I'm going to the envelope of the 808. Turn the attack down, the hold up, turn everything down so that the note stops when the 808. So that the 808 stops playing when the note stops. I'm to show y'all. You feel me? If you extend the note, it's not going to overlap on the next 808. It's not going to get muddy that way. But since the spin sounds a little bit muddy, I'm going to just go through the 808s like I said and found the best sounding 808 now that we have the pattern locked in. Okay, I like this soar one right here. These two. Yeah, I like this one. Use this one. Alright, so after the 808, we got the fundamental sounds laid down. So after that, you want to complement these sounds with other drum sounds that are less important than these. So for example, counter snares, cymbals, claps, percussion. So let's start out by adding a cymbal to it. I like to add a cymbal on the first bar just to enhance the impact a little bit. Use this one, place it on the first bar like I said. Shorten the sound a little bit, adjust it to match the sample. And that's that impact, you feel me? Yeah, keep it like that, sounds good. So next I'm gonna add some percussion to it. When it comes to the patterns of percussion, there's really no rules to this shit. It's just about matching the percussion elements with the sample, of course. So let's find some percussion sounds that I would like to use. So when it sounds good, drag it in. That's good as well. Lastly, I'm going to select this triangle. Of course, I might not use all of them. Okay, let's get started on the triangle. Create this envelope shape again so that the note stops playing once I let go of the key, of course. For the pattern of the triangle, let's start it with a longer note with a shorter note right after that. Repeat that. So just adds a little accent to it, a little ear candy. And since the percussion is not the most important element, you want to make sure that you turn that down, but I'm going to get more into the levels and the panning later. So on to the next sound. At this one, so let's find a pocket in the drum pattern that we got so far and the sample where this would sound good. I think I'm going to lay it down at the end right here. Maybe right here. Sounds pretty good. Repeat it over. Out of the two sounds that we got left. I like this one a little bit more. Yeah. Add it right there, turn it down. And let's take out this other sound we had left. So after all the percussion, you can always complement the main snare with a less present counter snare. Sound pretty good together with the main snare, I think. And with the counter snare, you really want to complement the main snare pattern. Sound good right here. So we already got a snare right here. I'm gonna take out that first snare. It's the same exact pattern, just copied over. Took out the first note. Perfect. Alright, so you don't want your beat to sound too cluttered, so of course we're going to play around with levels like I said. I think we got pretty much all the sounds that we need. so we can make some adjustments if we want to. We can go into the hi-hat pattern and maybe decide to add some rolls to the hi-hats if necessary, of course. But since the drums are already doing a lot, that might not be necessary if you would decide to send this beat to an artist, for example. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'm gonna add some rolls to it. I'm just giving you some examples of places where I usually like to add my hi-hat rolls. After a snare always sounds good. Second snare, for example, see how that sounds. You feel me? At the end of every fourth bar, I also decide to pitch some notes down, just to add some variety to it. Sounds good. Pitch it down a little bit more, add this effect to it. Maybe add one right here. It's a matter of finding the pockets once again. Woo! Hold on. Can always take notes out, for example. Right now I'm using the 1/6 beat right here. And when going for the 1/6 beat and when using the 1/6 beat for the hi-hat rolls, I like to complement those with the 1/3 step. But instead of the thirds, if you want to go for half a step, I like to use this one as well as 1/4. They just go well together. The 1/3, 1/6, and the half step and the 1/4 step. Hope y'all get what I mean. Film is just a matter of playing around, experimenting until something sounds right. If you decide to pitch rolls down, they tend to be really loud, so I always like to turn down the velocities on my lower hi-hat rolls. Pitch that over, make some adjustments on the first and second part so it's not too repetitive once again. Decide to pitch these up. Playing around with pitches, velocities, all that stuff. Skip the roll for the end right here, so it stays interesting. Yeah. Final pattern. So I'm satisfied how this turned out. I think we got pretty much all the sounds we need for the sake of this tutorial. After that, I think I'm gonna go into the pattern, since that's also something that's very important when laying down drums. So it's not too centered in the middle of the mix, you feel me? So I'm gonna highlight everything and do Command or Control L to send it to each individual mixer track. When it comes to the mixing of the drums, I already pre-leveled most of my sounds in my kit. So as y'all can see, I didn't really level too much out when it comes to the mixing. Already sounds leveled and good, you feel me? That's tough. But of course you could decide to turn some things up or down. Percussion, for example, if you think it's too present in the mix. And that's usually the last thing that I do to my drum patterns. So let's just go from left to right, go past each and every sound to adjust it to our liking. Starting out with the cymbal. I like to pan my cymbals out to the left, just to kind of separate it a little bit. The hi-hat, I like to keep that pretty centered. Turn it down a little bit. Snare also very centered. 808, hi-hat, snare, counter snare are usually the sounds that I like to have centered in my mix. Next we got this open hats, of course. You could decide to pan one to the left, one to the right, just to kind of enhance the stereo image. Sounds pretty good. This triangle, all the percussion sounds, you can really pan those all the way to the right, for example. Really makes it sound interesting, you feel me? Yeah. And after that, the final step is to arrange your drum pattern with the sample and the final beat. And for the people who are still struggling with arranging their beats, I have a video on my channel, I believe, going in depth on beat arrangement. It should pop up in one of the corners. So if you're still struggling with that, make sure to go check that out after watching today's video. But generally speaking, I like to get rid of my percussion in the first part of the hook, get rid of most of the percussion in the second, in the verse. I mean, you can maybe decide to keep some percussion elements. Cut out the counter snare in the first part of the hook, cut out the counter snare in the verse. You want the verse to be open, of course. Get rid of the open hats, maybe leave one open hat. So generally speaking, like I said, this is what my drum patterns look like for the arrangement. So I think that pretty much wraps up this drum pattern as well. I think I covered the most important parts, the fundamentals of laying down a hard drum pattern. But if you still have any questions or thought that I missed something, or you want me to go a little bit more in depth into certain parts of drums, for example, make sure to leave a comment with your feedback. I'll read it, and if I see enough comments, I'll make an updated video or a different video, depending on what y'all trying to see, you feel me? So that pretty much wraps up today's beat as well. So this is the final drum pattern, the final beat that we ended up with, man. Making cuts also helps increase the bounce. Came out fire, bro. Alright, man, that's pretty much it for today's video as well. Really want to thank y'all for watching the video all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video and learned something from today's video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We just passed 60,000 subscribers on the channel, so once again, really want to thank y'all for that, man. Like I said before, my Make Believe collection kit is out right now. I'm having the link down in the first link down in the description, so make sure to go check that out if you enjoyed the drum sounds that I used in today's video, man. If you want to support the channel, of course. If y'all want to see more drum related tutorials, or if you got any other video suggestions, make sure to leave a comment. I'll read every single comment, man, under every single one of my videos. That's all I got for today's video, man. So I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. I'm out.